Hello, and welcome to 10-7 Off Duty Podcast. My name is Andrew Straley, EMTP, and with me today is Clyde. Hi, Clyde.
Hey, everybody.
How are you guys doing today? It's nice to see you. Hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. I ate my body weight in turkey, I think, and stuffing, and
Cranberry
eggs.
sauce.
I like cranberries. I do like cranberries. But
My mother-in-law actually makes them from scratch. Cranberry sauce from scratch. It is the best thing. It is better than any canned cranberry sauce you'll ever have.
yeah, I'm sure. And actually, my favorite is oyster dressing. Like, I don't like just regular stuffing. I like oyster dressing.
Don't think I've ever had it.
Oh, I
I've
love
never had
oysters though, too. That's one thing that I like to do every once in a while for if I'm like for special occasions or if I just feel like doing it is there's a place in St. Louis called the Broadway Oyster Bar, and they have fresh shipped in oysters every day, and then they've got alligator, they've got calamari, they've got crawfish. I love crawfish. Crawfish is delicious.
You know what my favorite fish to eat is?
What?
It's actually crappie. Because I used to work at a factory. I'm not going to say a factory again. And I went in, and I was, I've got a very high metabolism. Like, if I don't
No.
Yeah, I know. It's shocking. But no, it actually, there comes with a negative side effect that a lot of people don't really consider when they hear somebody has a really high metabolism. If you do not constantly nourish yourself, like give yourself sustenance, you will get easily fatigued. You'll get lethargic. Like I would actually go so long without eating that, which for most people would be like, oh, well, that's not very long. But for me, it'd be so long, I would black out.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, if I go, 5-6 hours. There was a time when
Do you
I
have a
could.
thyroid problem?
I don't know. Last time I went to the doctor, they said I was perfectly healthy. I just probably a good idea to keep eating.
All right. Well,
Yeah, I was like, all right, cool. I like eating, so that's awesome. But no, it's starting to slow down now a little bit. Like now I can go longer without eating. I get lightheaded, but I don't black out anymore. But anyways, when I was working at this factory, one of my coworkers, he's an older guy. His name was Rucker. That was his last name. Everybody called him Rucker, old fucker Rucker. But
first name Darius.
no.
Hootie.
No, he was one of the coolest dudes in the world. Like he's been retired like 6 times. He kept coming back to work.
Fuck that.
Well,
Find a hobby.
No, that was the thing. Like he would just get bored. He'd been working since he was like 7 years old. He was an old man, old school Southern old man, and he would get bored. And I'm like, dude, what do you spend your money on? He's like, nothing really. I just make sure I got enough money for cigarettes and fishing hooks, and I'm good to go.
Dude.
I'm like, fair enough. But no, he made some crappie one day, and he saw that I brought in one sandwich for the entire workday.
Right.
And I was working over that day, and he's like, that ain't gonna be enough for you. It's like, yeah, but I mean, I was running late, so I mean, gotta do what I gotta do. I'll suffer.
Make do.
Yeah.
I have
And he's
money for a
like-
vending machine.
Yeah, and he's like, here you go, man. He reaches in his backpack. He pulls out a Tupperware container full of crappie. I'm like, what's that? He's like, it's crappie. I caught it yesterday. My wife cooked it up last night. You take a bite. I'm not really a big fan of fish, bro.
Was it deep fried or was it
No, I think she just fried it.
really?
One deep fried. But no, he was like, just try a bite. I was like, all right, fine, I'll try one bite. Well, I took a bite. I was like, man, this is good. I ate one. I mean, the fillets, I guess you could call them, the crappie fillets, they're not that big.
Right.
I eat it. And he's like, do you like it? I was like, yeah, it's fucking awesome. He's like, well, the whole container is yours. I was like, fuck yeah.
I tell you what, I love if I'm gonna go with not like a coastal fish. If I'm gonna go with like a dirty fish from our area or kind of this area, it's walleye. I love walleye. Fried walleye sandwiches, man, those are delicious. But there's only a couple places like during the year that I'll get them, and that's usually like county fairs. Because for some reason it seems like the county fair fish is always better.
It's like, wait, that came out of our lake? No, thank you.
Well, tilapia, I don't even think it existed in the wild. It was actually like a farmed fish.
Really?
Yeah, because most tilapia you get is from a tilapia farm. Which is fucked up. Like, all right, have you ever had crawfish? Do you know what crawfish are? They're
crawfish things.
Yeah.
I've never eaten one. I used to catch them. I used to like catching them.
I love going to like crawfish boils, like Louisiana style with the freaking Creole seasoning and the corn and the potatoes and all that stuff. That is just excellent.
Yeah. See, for me, when I say I used to catch them, I wasn't like going out with a net and catching them like a lot of like fishermen do. No, I was just going down in the rocks and looking for them and just pick them up, looking them for a while and just put them back.
They're like tiny little crabs.
Yeah, honestly,
or a lobster, tiny little lobsters.
One of the things I used to do, which I don't know if this is messed up or not because I don't know a lot about a crawfish, but I would grab one, especially if I saw it amongst a bunch. I'd grab one and then run like 500 feet down beach or down ravine, wherever I was, then put it down.
I don't think it matters, man. They're kind of dirty little things. But.
Like, because one of my favorite things was just like watching it look around, like where the fuck did everyone go?
You just fucked up his entire little world. You played God for 5 seconds and basically just changed his entire outlook on life. Like I've never been here before. Because you do realize 500 foot down whatever ravine you were in is like for us going from here
to state. But well, the reason I don't know what another thing I thought about as I got older was I would literally be running, and your brain only processes information so fast. And when you got to figure a crawfish brain, it's probably so small. They're probably going at light speed. For like they had no idea what was going on. They were trapped in the eye of the tornado, man. Like they were just winging at at that point. They're like, this is how it ends.
Death becomes me. I don't think they possess the ability to think about things
carving
like
out their will on one of their pincers.
Yeah, we started on Thanksgiving and turned to crawfish. What the fuck is wrong with
I was just gonna say we're already diving down the rabbit hole.
It's all right.
Cannonball.
I was thinking about this the other day because I've seen a few people ask questions about this, but I was actually going back and thinking about stuff that I've done too. What are some of the pranks that you've played on people at work?
There are a couple. One of my favorite prank stories is more of an accidental assault than a prank story.
All right.
Yeah. I worked at a fast food joint here in town for a couple of years. And there was one day where I accidentally happened to drop a meat wad. Well, I put it off to the side.
Meat wad.
Yeah, I didn't have enough time to run and throw it in the trash. I put it to the side real quick. I was like, I'm going to throw that out in a second. Okay. Well, fast forward a couple hours. Me and this girl that I worked with were always messing with each other. And it wasn't like we were flirting or anything like that. We were just friends that loved giving each other shit. And she would mess with me every chance she got, especially when I was busy, because I'd be working the grill, barely keeping up, and she would run up and tickle me, or she would move one of my spatulas, or she would take my salt shaker and put it on top of the fridge, so I'd have to like go start looking for it before I could salt anything I'm making. And one thing after another. Well, I told her one day, I was like, I'm gonna get you back bad. And when she came by and she started poking me and messing on me and like trying to pinch the back of my neck, like just little irritating things. Well, she walks away and she's standing by the sink, and this meat wad that I had dropped earlier, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna hit it. I'm not gonna hit her with it, but I'm gonna throw it at her and make it splatter right next to her head on the wall. Because I'm mature like that. I was like 17. And she's standing there and she's working. And I was like, I'm going to throw it. So I whip back and I chuck it as hard as I can. Like, I don't think Mark McGuire could have hit this thing. And I'm like, it's going to splatter right into the wall behind her. As soon as that meat wad left my hand,
you knew it was going to hit.
She rotated. She rotated right in front of it. It hit her right between the shoulder blades. And she crumbled like I shot her.
It's like in the wintertime whenever you're like with friends or whatever and it's snowing and you make a snowball that has slush right in the middle of it or an accidental rock. Have you ever done that?
Ice chunk.
Yeah. That sucks, man. That fucking sucks.
Clubs are right in the back. The next day she's telling me that, it's the size of a Bruce hit it spread out. And now I work with her boyfriend. So yeah, that's how he remembered me. Yeah.
You're the one that bruised my girlfriend.
Well, when she told him the story, he thought it was funny. He was on my side. So
right.
He was like, no, you deserve that shit.
There's a lot of weird, like, as far as EMS goes, there's a lot of weird shit that we do for pranks. Like, simple things like if you go to the hospital and one of the rigs is outside, you'll open the door up, turn the heat on high, and then just wait, especially in the summertime. Or if it's wintertime, you'll turn the AC on full blast and just wait for them to come back out. So it's like 2 degrees in their ambulance whenever they come back out. But me and one of my partners, he was a big old pervert, like weirdo pervert,
Mm-hmm.
Just an old guy, had been in EMS for long enough that his give a fuck had gone, and like mine is slowly going to. But he would just say random stuff to like women and stuff that could be construed.
You shouldn't be saying that.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, you didn't mean anything bad by it, but it could be taken the wrong way.
Right.
But anyway, so every year we have to go to the county like medical thing to get tested for TB. So that way, it's just one of those things you have to do.
We had to do that in corrections, too. Mm-hmm. Once a year, you'd have to get a TB shot.
So we'd go to get our TB tests, and subsequently afterwards come back for the reading or whatever. Every time we'd go, because they'd have you do it on shift, so that way they didn't have to like pay you to go in and do it. He would get a bag of the free condoms. So he would just get like 2 bags of free condoms per TB test, and for the next probably 6 months or whatever, people would just find random condoms in their EMS bags and stuff like that. Like, at one point, he roped me into getting a couple too, and so one of the people that was more like the straight lace, like always serious kind of people, had an entire bag of condoms dumped out into their jump bag. So the next call they went on, they opened it up and it was just full of condoms.
Like, honestly, you got to know that there's at least one person there that pissed him off one point in time or another, and they're really lucky he didn't just like decide to keep saving them for like a year and a half, 2 years, and then just like empty everything out of their bag and just fill it up with condoms.
Well, I mean, you couldn't do that because that would hurt somebody, Because
put it in their ambulance. Put it in the ambulance. Just like hide it in the ambulance somewhere. They call you, like, where the fuck is it? Well, it's under your seat, silly.
One of the better ones that I ever saw was somebody said something to somebody and they got pissed off with it. So this is what the guy did. All right. He took a bag of saline, like you would, hang for an IV, and he put it underneath the tire of one of the ambulances with a set of drip line that you would normally hook up to an IV site, up through the fender and into the cab through the door, and like in the sun visor, so you couldn't really see it. So that way, whenever they went to back up, they backed over the bag, and it just emptied 1,000 cc's of saline right into the driver's face. Oh. It was perfect. It was great.
Now, there are a couple of pranks that I've either heard of or actually been a part of, but one of them in corrections it was kind of fun to mess with the new guy.
Yeah.
And there were people that tried to mess with me. Now, I was lucky because my cousin was a correctional officer already there, and he would tell me if it doesn't sound right. He wouldn't tell me what any of the pranks were.
Right.
He's like, if it doesn't sound right, it's probably not right. Don't do it.
Right.
Like, fair enough. It's common sense. But there are some people there that, like, as soon as they got that uniform on, all common sense went out the window. Like, somebody called another new guy. I did not have anything to do with this, but I heard about it. Okay. Called the new guy. He was working midnights. They're like, hey, man, it was the 4th of July. He's like, you need to get all of your inmates out of bed and escort them, because they're going to be escorted outside on the lawn so they can watch the 4th of July fireworks. And they're like, as soon as you're ready, call the sergeant over the radio.
Oh, God.
Well, next thing you hear over the radio is, Sergeant
blah, blah.
from Officer blah blah. What's up? I've got all my inmates out of bed. We're ready to go outside and watch fireworks. And you hear the sergeant key his mic and then let go.
Yep.
And then key his mic again and then let go.
Yep.
And he does it about 3 times. Finally, on the 4th time, he was just like, whoever told you that was messing with you. Get your inmates back in bed.
Oh, God.
And he was like, yes, sir.
Man, I actually had an open mic issue one time that, I was maybe a year and a half into it, like into working at this place. And yeah, I got along with everybody just fine at this time. And I was working the basic truck because I was still in I school, hadn't got my I license yet. So basically with the basic truck, all we did all day was hospital discharges home or to a nursing home or something.
Right.
So, or doctor's appointments and all that stuff, which is the biggest crock of bullshit that you'll ever have to deal with if you're in EMS. Because honestly, there's only a handful of times when you should ever have to take an ambulance to a doctor's visit. Seriously. Or especially like going to dialysis, because most of these people that are going to dialysis get around just fine on their own anyway. But we took this grandma home. It was fine. We dropped her off, put her in bed, made sure she was comfortable. We get back out in the rig, and the radio that I used, I had on a strap, like the fire department strap, because I hated taking it out of my pocket and talking and all that stuff. So I'd just rather have a mic on my on the strap. So I was up to drive this time, and we knew it was going to be a busy day when we first started anyway. So got in the rig, sat down, and I was talking to my partner about that. We were talking about trying to go get a snack and a drink or something like that before our next pickup. So we were talking about calling dispatch to figure out when the next one was, if we had enough time, blah, blah, blah. Well, apparently what happened was I sat on my radio, so it keyed up on the radio, and so the lapel mic was just picking up everything that we were talking about.
Oh, no.
And all of a sudden, dispatch, called my cell phone, which honestly, when you're the BLS truck, 99% of the time, they would just call your phone, so that way they'd tell you where your next pickup was instead of like wasting radio traffic for it. And the dispatcher calls me, and I looked at it. I'm like, oh, it's dispatch. All right. Well, we got another call right now, or we got time to do this shit. And picked it up and said, red light taxi service. You call it, we haul it. And the only thing that I hear is open mic. I'm like, oh, no! I'm going to get fired. Fucking take my radio back out. I'm like, I am so sorry. Is anybody pissed yet? They're like, I don't think so, but I can't really see anybody right now. Oh, God. Fuck. So, yeah, that was one of those where from then on I had to make sure that I wasn't, sitting on my radio.
Another one this one, I was behind a lot of them. It started making its rounds. Evidently, this was a prank that had gone around about 5-10 years ago,
right,
in corrections. And it reared its ugly head a little bit when my cousin first started, and he mentioned it to me. Well,
and you revived it.
Oh, I brought it back hard. Every time we had a new guy, and they'd be like, they would mess up their uniform somehow. It was inevitable.
Right.
Like me, I accidentally somehow cuffed my back belt loop in my handcuffs. I have no idea how, and it was in such an awkward way where we couldn't get the key in, where I had to have a buff lieutenant, and I mean, this dude was just stacked. He had to grab the handcuffs and literally rip my back belt loop off. And he was like, I I've done a lot of shit in corrections, and this is a first. Thanks, Russell. But anyway, they would mess up their uniform somehow. They would get a little nick in their sleeve, or their badge was starting to lose some of its shine, or something would happen.
Right.
They would lose their badge, not their star. Our star was technically our badge, but we'd also have to wear a name tag with it, which is part of our badge. Okay. Well, and it would just say CO and your last name, or just say your last name if your last name was really fucking long.
Right.
And every time one of the new guys, like I was hanging out with a lot, would lose their badge, I'm like, oh, dude, you need to fill out an ID10 t-shirt issue. And he's like, a what? An ID10T form. And he's like, well, where do I get those? I'm like, well, go ahead and call. And I had a couple of buddies that knew all about this. I'm like, go ahead and call these guys. See if they got it. They call. I'm like, hey, do you guys have an ID10T? They're like, oh, man, no. Does the officer you're with have one? And they're like, no. And they're like, oh, dude, you got to call the sergeant. And so he'd call the sergeant and he'd be like, hey, do you guys have an ID10T form? No, we don't. We don't have those, man. We don't have those up here, man. Oh, okay. Should I call the lieutenant? Yeah, that's a great idea. So they called the lieutenant. Hey, I need an ID10T sheet. And depending on the lieutenant, some of them would end there, and other ones would be like, no, you're gonna have to call the major.
Oh God.
And so they call the major.
For all of those following along right now, ID10T spells out
idiots. I was gonna get to that, damn it. But they'd call the major, and be like, hey, do you have an ID10T form? And you would hear them through the phone, and be like, oh, God damn it. That spells idiot. You're asking for an idiot form. What did you do? Did you mess up your uniform? Yeah. I hear my mic. CO Russell, please call Major Jones. Like, oh, damn it.
my favorite was somebody made up some of those for us too at one point. It was an ID10T form, but it was underneath it was the hurt feeling report. And like it would list, how did somebody say something that offended you? Did somebody do something that you didn't find appropriate? Did somebody do this? Did somebody do this? At the end, it was signing this form. You agree to suck it up. That was great.
Man,
one of the ones that I heard about that was great from one of my posts was they had two cars there at one point that were running out of this post. Well, they didn't have enough beds for everybody, so it would rotate. The crews would rotate who got the bed, shift to shift. Well, some of the people that were sleeping on the couch, they had the drop ceilings, just like every storefront or anything. So what they would do is kind of like with the truck, they took a 1,000 mil bag of saline with the drop tubing, and they set it up, hung it at the up in the rafters,
right? And
then they ran the tube so it would just poke out the drop ceiling right above the guy's head that was sleeping on the couch, and they would set it so slow that it would just drip every about, maybe minute or so. So that way the guy would be asleep, and then all of a sudden it would just be right on his forehead. Right on his forehead. I was like, that is perfect, but I felt like that one wouldn't really work out that well, because somebody'd get pissed off and realize.
Well, see, if they put it on in their chest.
Yeah.
After about 30 minutes, you get a little puddle.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. After about an hour, their entire shirt is drenched. When they wake up, they're like, what the fuck?
That was one thing that they would always do at the hospital, too, is they'd get the 10cc saline flush that you'd use to flush an IV, and then you'd have somebody writing a report, sitting at the counter or whatever. They'd just walk by and put it, right at the neck of their shirt and just empty the whole thing right in their back. Yeah, it was one of those things.
When I was in high school, we had a counselor that was there. And he was kind of that young, really hip counselor. A lot of people liked him. He didn't show up till I was a senior, so I don't get to know him too well, but well enough to know that I liked him.
Yeah.
You'd go into his office, and he would have Yoshi and Mario and all different Nintendo caricatures on his computer.
My question to you is, was he one of those ones that, tried just a little bit too hard, though? Whenever you'd talk, he'd flip his chair around and sit backwards on it, be like, let's rap.
No, actually, he was actually just really a laid-back guy. He had just graduated from college in his studies, so he was only 24. So, I mean, he was really, really young as it was. I mean, he was only a couple of years older than most of us. I mean,
Right.
he was right in our age group. Like, we all knew, like, hey, he's had enough life to understand what we're going through, but he's still young enough to know when to give it to us easy and when to cut the bullshit and be like, hey, you're fucking up.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, and that's what I really liked about the guy. Well, one day I was sitting there, I was talking because I was what our school called an office helper,
Right.
where basically I was far enough ahead in school where they didn't want to make it so my second semester senior year I only had a half a credit to graduate because they're like, his ass ain't gonna show up. So my senior year they like split up my classes, so half my classes I wasn't even getting credit for.
Right.
So that way I would be forced to take my second semester seriously. Smart idea, but still bullshit at the same time.
They should have just let you graduate early. You know?
They should have.
Be like,
They should have. They're like, hey,
whatever.
you're gonna take an extra class from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you're gonna graduate in December. Like, fuck yeah, I'll do that. But anyway, I'm delivering a note or some paperwork to that section of the building. And I'm talking to him. We start talking about prank, kind of like we are now. And he's like, yeah, when I was in college, there was a prank that they did, and I've always wanted to do this to somebody.
College pranks are the best.
They would take a folder. It's like a regular folder, pocket folder, and fill the pockets with shaving cream.
Okay.
And then what you do is you would slide it under someone's door and then stomp on the pockets. And then it would just blow up inside the door. He said it got so bad that every time I would hear a slight scrape sound, I would dive in front of my door with a towel.
Dude, fuck. Yeah. I actually walked in, like, first day when I went to college, where me and John went, we were having our orientation, whatever, and it was a mandatory orientation. But there was a certain point where I'd forgotten something in my room. I was like, okay, I'm going to go back and get it. So I unlocked my door, open it up, and there's one of the guys that had been there for quite some time. And he's got 2 trash bags full of newspapers balled up, and he's stuffing everybody's desk drawers, dresser drawers, just full of newspapers, like stuffing them in your sleeves of your clothes and everything else, man. And they were doing this. Apparently, it was like a tradition in the dorm that we were in, where they would all do this. So, like, I open the door up, and he's like, "Oh, hey, like, sup?" He's like, oh, nothing. I'm like, well, it's funny, but could you not? And he's like, I'll move on. Sweet, thanks. Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
When I worked at UPS, there were people that would ship live crickets. And they would come through a box that had like a mesh front to it.
Yeah.
And they would be alive. Well, I don't know how accurate this is, but one of the little country boys I would work with actually told me once, or like, see, what people don't realize is that when crickets get scared, they produce a gas and it smells. It's a defense mechanism. Yeah, it's kind of like a skunk, but it's just a little bit different. And one of the most common pranks were whenever you'd have somebody loading a big truck at UPS, where they would get this box, they would give it a slight shake and then toss it into the truck.
Gas the driver out.
There was a couple of times where these boxes were no more than like 6x8, 6x8 by 6.
Yeah.
Just small little box about the size of a football. Well, I remember one time I was loaded, and me and the guy who was pulling boxes off the belt to put into my truck, we were fucking with each other a lot. And then he starts laughing. What the fuck is this asshole laughing about? And then I see it come up the belt, just kind of creep up the belt. It was 15 of those boxes banded together. He grabbed it and went, shake, 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 and then tossed it into my truck. I grabbed that box as fast as I could, stuck it behind the wall of boxes I was building, and then just started building up around it, trying to hold that smell in. I was like, you son of a bitch.
I wonder if crickets can gas each other out.
Oh my god. It was, honestly, I think it, in my head, I think it would come down to like, if one started gassing, every other cricket around it would start gassing, because they'd be like, okay, something's up, this guy knows, we're all gonna do it.
That probably inappropriate, but one of my not really a prank, but when I was in college, I would run up with a can of Axe in one hand and a lighter in the other hand, and then I'd pull my pants down, spray my ball sack, and light it on fire.
No, you could not pay me enough to do that.
So that way, the rest of the day, their dorm room would smell like burnt hair and Axe body spray. Yeah, that was probably not a good one. It was funny though.
I worked at a pizza delivery joint, and every time we had a new person, we would ask them to go get us a bucket of steam. And they're like, well, where is it? Well, it's in the shed outside. Okay. And then as soon as they walk outside, we lock them out. Big joke. Well, there was this one person who was gone. Disappeared for like 25 minutes.
Oh, shit.
And we're like, where the fuck did this person go?
They were in the shed, weren't they?
No. There was no shed outside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we didn't have a shed. Well, we finally opened the back door and we started looking for her. And we're like, where the hell did she go? It's like, all right, I guess she just went home. I guess she just called it quits. Well, crap, we made somebody quit.
She went to the store, didn't she?
No. She comes back about 10 minutes after that. So she's gone for more than a half an hour at this point. And she goes, I found the shed, but I can't get in it. What? Where did you go? And she's like, well, I found the shed. It's right back there. I just can't get in it. All right, dude, you got to show us what you're talking about. Dude, we follow her out there. A couple of us followed her out there, and she took us like half a block down. Back behind, like, there was like 4 or 5 businesses clustered together over there. So like we'd have to like weed our way through the back, like little almost alleyways.
Right.
Like you could put your arms apart and touch both sides of the building. That's how close this walkway was. We waded our way through 3 different buildings, and she points at it. She's like, yeah, there it is. It was the shed for the Goodyear tire that was right behind us.
What?
And there were footprints on the door from where she grabbed the lock and was pulling on it as hard as she could. We're like,
you are a special kind of special.
And we look up and we see cameras. We're like, we got to go now.
Somebody's gonna call the cops. I know. When I was doing the fire thing, there was a whole lot of pranks you'd always pull on, like the new guys, the probies or whatever. One of my favorites was, I actually talked a guy into doing this once, was getting up on top of the tanker and stirring it to keep the sediments from plugging the drains. So he got up there with a big stick and started stirring a tanker. Like,
every 5 seconds. Every time I want to drink, I hit this damn thing.
Think.
Oh, man.
One of the other favorite ones that I always had was whenever it was time to do maintenance on the tools, we'd have the new guy try to push start the K12 saw. So he'd be out in the front apron in front of all the bays and stuff with it open with the K12 saw and push starting it on, trying to push start it on the apron. Be like, no, man, you have to back up and get a running start at it. Oh, no, you got to go further. That was great. That was one of my favorites. I think I told this story before. This is a prank that was actually done on me. I guess not a prank. That kind of funny, but not a prank. Was I had gotten home from my job on the ambulance one day, and I shit my pants. Okay.
Like, legitimately shit your pants?
Yeah, I legitimately shit my pants.
Oh.
I actually
I sharted.
I pulled into, because have you shit your pants as an adult?
Not as an adult.
Okay, all right. I got home from work, pulled my truck.
The oldest I ever was like 11. That was because I was sick. Really sick.
No, this was, I got home from work, pulled into my garage, got out, grabbed all my work stuff, went to walk out of the garage door, and thought I just had to fart. I'm 30. I can't trust a fart anymore. But, so I told one person, which was horrible, and now I'm telling the entire world through the fucking audio media. But I went to go run a call on the fire department, and somebody had stuffed adult diapers in my bunker pants. Because it got back that fucking far. I was like, you guys are dicks, but I'm taking one of these home just in case. Yeah, that was fun. I know at one point, I can't remember who did it. It was another condom when somebody stuffed in one dude's turnout boots full of open condoms. So they went to put their foot in it, and it was just like squishy and lubed. It was horrible.
So this next one, I don't know if this really constitute a prank, as more of just taking advantage of somebody that was high. When I worked at UPS, we would get X amount of time off during peak season. And when I say X amount of time off, like they would, instead of like the 10-minute break, they would give us halfway through the night.
Right.
Because it was just a part-time gig loading the trucks.
Right.
They would give us 45 minutes breaks because we would be there for almost 8 hours.
Yeah,
it's peak season. I mean, peak season's
Black
Friday, or the Sunday right after Black Friday.
Yeah.
All the way up to the Thursday right before Christmas.
Right.
And so a lot of people are shipping shit, especially because of Black Friday, everything people are ordering, and then Cyber Monday, everyone's ordering online.
Oh, yeah. And it continues on after that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We wouldn't actually... Peak season officially ended the Thursday before Christmas. Peak season didn't end until January.
Oh, yeah. No. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Well...
That's when I buy all my shit. Yeah. I was one of those assholes. I'm like, if it can get delivered to my house and I don't have to go see people, I'm down.
Yeah. Yeah, and into January, everything's still on sale.
Right.
Because they're like... They expected to sell X amount so much, only sold a certain percentage of that. They're like, well, I guess we're just going to run a sale on it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
Amazon is my friend.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon's pretty cool. I like Amazon.
I can get car parts delivered to my house.
But anyway, this dude would always go out and get baked on his break. And it sucked because we knew when he would leave that
when he come back, he
was not going to be doing anything. And we were like, all right, whatever. Well, he brought this big ass bowl of cereal. Like it was a popcorn bowl with like a full box of Lucky Charms or something in it.
All right. The perfect high food.
Oh yeah, well he wasn't high. That was just his pre-work meal.
Oh God.
Yeah. Well, he got high
at least he's healthy.
When he came back, and he was literally walking up and down the building, high off his ass, barely had his eyes open, going, "Has anyone seen my spoon?" Carrying his bowl. I'm starting to get irritated until I look over at my partner that's on the belt with me, and I'm like, can you believe this guy, man? Like, he hasn't done a damn thing. We've been back to work for 45 minutes, and he's like, yeah, I know. He keeps looking for a spoon. And reaches in his back pocket and pulls out his spoon. And he's like, he hasn't even asked me yet. Put it back. I'm like, evil genius.
I'm just saying, like, I understand certain uses of marijuana. Like, if you're in pain or if you have anxiety and all that stuff, or, even to a certain extent, somebody just wants to get high whenever they get home from work because they, whatever. Like, I'm cool with it. It doesn't bother me. As long as it doesn't, like, affect me directly, then I don't care.
See, I'm actually very pro legalization of marijuana.
Oh, me too.
Oh, yeah. I'm very pro for it for multiple reasons. Honestly, I'm actually right down to the point where it's like, hey, you know what? Even if you just want to do it, do it. I don't give a shit.
Right.
But I am right there with you. It's like alcohol.
Yeah.
Don't abuse it. I mean, don't come to work so fucking high or so fucking drunk where you're worthless.
Yeah.
Or possibly going to get somebody hurt. I really don't give a shit. Be responsible. Like, that's literally all we're asking.
You know what? If you're using pot when you're at home, at least you don't wake up in the morning with a hangover.
That's true. I was to say, you don't hear very many stories about somebody getting high and then beating the shit out of their wife and kids. Just
yeah.
Worst thing you're going to see is two potheads fighting over a bag of Funyuns. You know who's going to win? The one who doesn't fall asleep first.
my favorite. I can't remember what comedian it was, but it was like, drunk driving versus high driving. Like, the worst that's going to happen is you're going to get in a wreck at 15 miles an hour when you're high, and it's probably going to be into your garage door because you forgot to open the fucker. So I don't know. That's, but my opinion is, why you wouldn't take a beer to work and start drinking a beer at work or like vodka shots unless you're like a really fucked up individual.
Yeah, you would, but those are the irresponsible individuals I was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, like for me anyway, with jobs you have to get a piss test anyway. You can get a random piss test. Yeah. I worked at a factory one time where I went to a cookout at my foreman's. This was years ago. Went to a cookout at my foreman's house, and just burgers and brats and all that shit.
Right, classic cookout.
Yeah, but he was one of those that for some reason he did cocaine when he was off. Well, for some reason, 2 days, like a day, the next day we were on shift, they popped him for a random for some reason, and yeah, he just he lost it. He lost a job, and it was like, man, you had a good gig. You were a foreman. You really didn't have to do anything. You were really good at your job. You treated everybody fairly, but yeah, I mean,
yeah, I actually had a foreman like that at the factory I worked at, where he was a good guy. He really was, but he just cared a little too much about crystal meth. Yeah.
Well, that's a little different.
Not when you compare the two, cocaine and crystal meth. In my head, they're really not all that different because I mean, you shouldn't be doing either of them.
True. Yeah, definitely.
You shouldn't be. But like he was just like you said, he was a fair guy. He treated everyone fair. Everyone, for the most part, respected him, other than the people he used to party with him way back when he was hooked on it before.
Yeah.
Then he got clean, and then I guess he went back to it.
Gotcha.
And when he went ahead and told one of our bosses, I heard this months later, like it came out. Evidently, he told one of our bosses that he was having problems with it, and they were going to set him up with like a therapy.
Rehab or something.
Rehab, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
NA is what I've heard it called in corrections, Narcotics Anonymous.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, well, you know, I really don't know if I'm going to be able to do those meetings. You know, I never really liked those sit down bullshit. And they're like, he's like, all right, well, you know what, man? If you don't want to do that, I'm really not worried about you because at least where you're going to have 3 hot meals and a bed to sleep in.
Right, yeah.
And he's like, oh, man, you didn't really talk to me like that. And he's like, listen, dude, here's the option. You already told me about this. I've got to put it down on paper. Either you take the therapy, you go to rehab, or we fire you right now.
I got a similar story to that, but I was just going to say, this is like cocaine. Yeah, you shouldn't do it, but at least it's natural-ish. I mean, it comes from the coca plant. Like, they have to, do shit to it to make the drug or whatever. Fucking meth, though? Like, crystal meth?
It's all man-made. It's
everything that they put into it will literally kill you if you'd used it alone. Yeah. I mean, you've got freaking ephedrine, the freaking battery acid for some reason. And then you got anhydrous ammonia. I mean, and anhydrous will kill you.
I was reading somewhere. I don't know how accurate this is, but I was reading somewhere originally amphetamines were originally made for like the military or something like that to keep them awake longer or something like that.
I think in World War II, I can't remember who it was, but I think Germany was doing
they were
experiments
just experimental
and shit on
amphetamines on their soldiers, which
I've seen some really cool, like really funny videos that have been dug up out of archives off of YouTube,
right? Of
some of the World War II people who they experimented acid on. Oh my god!
Well, speaking of military experimenting. Have you ever heard of the video? It's on YouTube. It's a creepypasta now. It's called the Russian Sleep Experiment. Dude, it's fucking trippy. Evidently, they locked some. I don't know which country it was. I don't know if this was true or not. I really doubt it's true, or if it was true, it was very, very, very loosely based. Like the story is very loosely based on the actual event, where they ended up locking prisoners of war in this kind of like a lab setting where they were constantly being fed into their oxygen supply something that was going to keep them awake to see how long the human body could stay awake.
Oh, it'll kill you eventually.
Before you start feeling pain, before you start going crazy, like just to see everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And
I've hallucinated before because I've been awake so long.
Oh, there's
that's only like maybe 24, 36, or
I want to say it's 72 hours before you actually start taking what they call micro naps, which where your brain literally shuts down for roughly 17 seconds at a time.
Yeah.
And you literally hallucinate because your brain is asleep while you're awake.
Yeah.
And but anyway, this story got really messed up. Like evidently only a couple of days into it, the soldiers would actually take shit and smear it on the windows so they couldn't see in. And this was a lot far enough back where they didn't really have cameras.
Right, yeah.
So I want to say it was right after World War I or World War II that they were talking about.
Everything, like, experimentation on people back then was very loose. They didn't really care, And a lot of German scientists from World War II were actually given immunity and brought back to the United States to do...
really?
To do research on... stuff in the United States too.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they went like they took shit and started smearing on the windows and like
Waffle
paper
stopping?
and all that kind of shit on the windows so you couldn't see in, and then all you would hear is just them talking and screaming at each other, and like you could just hear audio. And finally they went ahead and went in, and a couple of them were dead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They were dead, and the other ones were like eating them even though they had food and water supplies still there.
No shit.
Yeah. And one of them was actually sitting there eating. He had taken his fingernails and like scraped off all the skin on his stomach and on his fingers, and he was literally eating it, and he was watching the food get processed through his intestines as he was eating it.
Fuck that.
Like I said, I think it's very loosely based on what happened. Like that's a creepypasta, that's a ghost story.
I'm sure
but,
that something like certain things like that did happen. I mean, I know that I know that amphetamines and acid and some of the other drugs that were recreational or have been recreational have been tested on military too,
right?
Just to see what would happen.
Right. Here's a random question for you. I just had a thought. We didn't even plan on talking about this topic, but I'm going to ask it really quick.
Huh?
You hear? I'm big into YouTube. I listen to a lot of creepypasta stuff like that. Skinwalker stories and different stories like that have been popping up a lot. They're really popular now.
I don't know what skinwalkers are.
Skinwalkers were actually a Native American myth that a person could turn into an animal or change their shape, any animal, or change their shape in general to anything they wanted to. Skinwalkers are usually believed to be evil creatures because the only way to become a skinwalker is like dude pretty much deals with whatever evil deity they believed in, or demons in general. And then I want to say in one particular tribe, the final ritual is to kill a blood relative that you're very close to sacrifice them before you gain this power.
The fuck?
Yeah. Now, like I said, like that's the mythos behind it.
Right.
But do you believe in any of like those unnatural creatures that see depicted?
I think that there's a possibility that they could be, but I can't really say for certain.
Right.
I've never seen one.
Right. Fair enough. Me personally, I think there's some shit out there we don't know about.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of area and there's a lot of wooded area that nobody's been to. You know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the whole Yeti, Bigfoot thing.
Yeah.
That's possible.
What about
Nessie? Huh?
What about Nessie?
Maybe. Like I said, I mean.
By the way, everyone out there, the best part about this conversation is watching Drew's face. Like he's just he's like, I don't know. Stop talking.
Look, my expertise is not in that because I've never seen it. If I see it, then yeah. My theory is, I would rather see it to believe it than. But I think that a lot of the stories are entertaining. I mean, if you think about it. If this Skinwalker thing was started with Native American people, then either they've seen something that they couldn't explain, which let's be honest, could have been a lot of things. I mean, can you imagine the first time that a Native American tribe saw a Eastern European in shiny armor riding a horse with a gun that shot, well,
they actually had
a black powder rifle. I mean, they'd be like, "What the fuck is that?"
The movie Pathfinder actually depicted that pretty well. How they saw the Vikings. Have you ever seen Pathfinder?
No.
Pathfinder was a movie about a Viking vessel that came into the Americas, I want to say, and somewhere along the eastern seaboard, and they fought with the Vikings. And the only one that survived was this little boy. And this little boy who was played by Carl Urban, I want to say.
Yeah. I haven't seen it. I couldn't tell you.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I think it was Carl Urban. But he ended up surviving the Native Americans. They raised him. And later on, these Vikings come back. Like when the little boy's an adult. And he keeps having flashbacks to dragons and monsters with this metal skin on these vessels that are massive and arrows and spears can't penetrate and all that shit. And when you think about it, it's like
that's a Viking ship.
That's literally how they're remembering Viking ships and how the dragon, because they would put dragons on the front of the boat and all that shit. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like they did a pretty good job like visualizing and portraying how those stories would have been portrayed as the time went on.
This is what I think is like. This is like a two-parter. Is back in like biblical times and stuff like that, where nobody really traveled that far out of their own realm or whatever. Mm-hmm. The whole wizard theories and stuff like that.
Oh, magic was real.
Yeah, where you would have somebody that you didn't know that might have been from like 20 miles away that made a journey somewhere, and he's like, oh yes, my friend Merlin is a magician. He slays dragons, and there's a king that has a sword that he drew from a stone.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, these things have been around for thousands of years, but who knows where they actually came from, you know? But that kind of goes back to being in medicine now, I would rather be an old-timey doctor in like, the Wild West or even before that.
Where a cure for the cough was the shot of whiskey.
Oh, no, even better than that. The chemical makeup of some of these like cure-all things had cocaine, marijuana, and like, seriously, like it was 90% alcohol with cocaine, marijuana, and all this stuff. But hold on. This would be the best thing is you'd be an old timey doctor to be like, you drunk as fuck going, oh yeah, you got ghosts in your knee, we need to let some blood out.
One of my favorite ones is when you were talking about that, I'm thinking of where the origin of the term blowing smoke up someone's ass came from.
Yeah,
that was actually a medical procedure, I guess, at one time, where they would be burning tobacco through a giant hookah basically, and the doctor would literally have this like kind of like a catheter thing that they would shove up your ass, and they would blow smoke up your ass because they believed it would help relieve toxins. Yeah, that's where the term came from.
I mean,
it was actually a medical practice.
They actually fucking put leeches on people to cure shit. Like, that's fucking weird. And actually,
to leach out the bad blood.
They do that. That's actually still a medical thing. Believe it or not. There are certain things where they will put leeches on people to reduce swelling and shit. Not around here, but it's still a thing.
I'm sorry, but if I go to my neighborhood doctor and he pulls out a leech, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to transfer doctors.
I don't think my HMO will cover you anymore. Get the fuck out of here. But yeah, bloodletting was a thing at one point. Like, all these old medicines that would cure-alls had, all these random fucking
snake oil salesman.
Yeah. Which really, you'd feel better, but you were high because that's why you felt better.
Do you have hives? Rub it on your arm. Are you bald? Rub it on your head. Are you infertile? Rub it on your... Never mind.
Your stance if you're Jewish. It's just, it blows my mind. But we were talking about somebody you worked with that they tried to send him to NA or whatever.
Yeah,
that one of the companies I worked for, the dude was stealing morphine. Like, he would normally in hospitals, you've got, it's getting better now, but it's a certain time, some of the nurses would give a partial dose of morphine, and then they'd either put the other dose in their pocket or sit it at their desk, so that way that they'd deal with it later because normally they're busy or whatever. Yeah, he was walking by and just snatching them because apparently he had a morphine addiction from something that he had done previously, and they caught him. Normally that would be something where you would just lose your license and be kicked out of the system. But yeah, they sent him to rehab, and he kicked it for a while, but then he went back to it, and yeah, they had to let him go at that point. So that sucks.
See, personally, I think that it's a pretty good idea where companies do that, where if you do have an addiction and you go to your employer and you're like, hey, listen, I've got this problem and I need help. There are certain companies, including the company I work for, where if you have a problem like that, they will actually set you down and actually get you the help you need. But you have to get out in front of it.
Right.
Like you have to be
You
like,
can't-
hey,
you
I
can't
need
just be
this
caught
help.
with it.
Yeah, you can't be tardy for 5 days, or gone for 5 days straight because you're out on some fucking crack binge,
Yeah.
and then come in and be like, well, I have a problem.
Right.
Yeah, like, I scratched my neck by the no, like you have to get out in front of it. And I think that's a really cool idea that employers would be like, you know what? They're willing to get the help. Let's help them out, and then we still have a solid employee.
Right.
I think that's really awesome.
You know what really this was actually something that I was privy to because I was working at the place at the time when I left college before I got into EMS or fire or anything like that. I decided, and I was taking other classes at the local community college. I was working for a local large car dealership as a building maintenance person. So I was, lights, or if they needed walls built or whatever, that was, my job. Take out the trash and all that stuff. One of the dudes that worked it was a salesman, and take this as you will. I have yet to meet a car salesman that wasn't addicted to some sort of horrible thing, because I would empty the office trash out of there and there would be handles of whiskey that were empty in the trash. Like, they'd finish up at the end of the night and they'd all just stick around and be drinking at work while they were working on paperwork and stuff. So, and even worse than that is like those tent sales that they have. I'd have to go in extra early to pick up all the beer cans that all the salesmen would leave at the tent sale, like after everybody had left, or all the people buying stuff. But this dude, I guess he took a car home, like a brand new car home, for the weekend because they wanted him to like be able to drive it, and they would do this so that way he could tell possible customers about this vehicle since he had it all weekend. He showed up a week later, and there was just cocaine covering everything, and it had, I want to say, like 6,000 miles on it.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so he went on a freaking like bender and just left. They don't know where he went or anything. Dude still had a job. Nothing happened. They were just like, okay. I guess it's a used car now.
You know what the car's capable of.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, the center console is perfect to do a line of blow off of. It was fucked up.
Jesus Christ.
And the dude that...
You can fit 9.5 whores in this thing.
in
Half?
the trunk.
Half? One was a midget.
Yeah, man, those are some fucked up stories that you can get into sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we've been at this for about an hour now, so how about we just go ahead and close the bad boy out for the week? I'd hope to do a little more, but we'll do more next week.
Fair enough.
All right. We got to do our little plugs here. We thank you guys for listening to us and hanging out with us. I'm going to go ahead and I'll put this on the Facebook and the twat too, but we're going to go ahead and put t-shirts on sale for $16. $16. We still got larges, extra larges, and a couple mediums left. So if you guys are interested in any of the t-shirts, go on our email and send us a message at 107offduty@gmail.com, or look us up on Facebook and Twitter, 10-7offduty. Also, go visit our friends at Medic Element. They've got custom t-shirts, and they've got stickers, morale patches, and stuff. Use the code MEDIC18 for buy one, get one free on stickers. They're awesome guys. Go give them some love. Also, if you want coffee, and Clyde was able to try the coffee, go to blackriflecoffee.com.
I recommend Silencer.
Silencer?
Oh, that is my favorite so far.
Was that the light roast, or was that the...
That one is actually, if you get on their website, they actually have like a spectrum of all of their coffee in order by strength, starting at the lowest all the way to the highest. And dude, that AK espresso is only like the halfway mark.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
I gotta go check that out.
Yeah, that shit was actually pretty good too. I like the espresso too. But so far, Silencer is the lowest. So if you're a caffeine junkie and you only drink coffee for the caffeine, don't go with Silencer. If you like the taste of coffee, go with the silencer. Because, I mean, even if it's, getting late in the day and you have to get up early and you just want a cup of coffee, the silencer is not going to perk you right back up. It's definitely more of a taste coffee than it is
nice.
I'm going to get you going.
I think I tried that the other day, and it does taste really, really good.
Oh, I love it.
I still like the Beyond Black. The Beyond Black, to me, is just my favorite.
I actually think the Beyond Black is stronger than the espresso.
I probably, but in all honesty,
on their spectrum, I can't remember exactly where it sits, but I'm pretty sure it's farther to the right than the espresso.
If you make an espresso coffee in just a regular coffee maker, it's not going to be as strong, because honestly, if you make espresso in an espresso maker, you're basically condensing a pot of coffee into one cup. So that's
fair enough.
Yeah. So go check out our friends at Black Rifle Coffee and use the discount code 107 off duty, no dash, just 107 off duty to get 15% off your coffee. So do that for us. Go give those guys some love, because they're awesome. They support a lot of different places that need some help with too. So again, our email 107offduty@gmail.com for questions, or get us on our Facebook and Twitter 10-7 off duty. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Later.